originally due October the 1st. She's a woman now. She's 40. Jessica Penne, the former champ, over with Invicta. She's going to be taking on Baby Shark, Tabatha Ricci, and they were originally supposed to square off on fight week. Penne was out, so they rebooked the fight. And now we get it in the new year. We touched on this fight in great detail, so we're going to throw it on back to that preview of the video. We're going to update you with those topology picks. We're going to make a final pick and prediction on this. And I mean, if you consider it, she was on The Ultimate Fighter Season 20. She was a standout over there. Wasn't able to get it done all the way up near the top, but she does get a win and then automatically vault herself into a fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And that did not go well at all. She had that fight against Jessica Andrade. That fight did not go very well. She fought Danielle Taylor. That fight also did not go very well. And then for a period from 2017 to 2021, Jessica Penne went dark. And we didn't really hear a lot about her. You'd see her doing commentary gigs here and there, but she had USADA complications, injury complications. She steps back into the cage in 2021 and somehow melted my mind and everybody else's, and she beat Lupita Godinez by split decision, which was strange. Then she goes out there and fights Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and it's like, wow, they both fought near the top of the mountain. I mean, that's going to be an interesting fight, right? Nope. Kowalkiewicz decided that she was going to entertain some of the grappling of Penne, and Penne was able to cinch up a quick submission win in the first round. Look amazing. Performance bonus on that card. And for Penne, that's a win that now all of a sudden it didn't look all that great in the moment, but now that Kowalkiewicz just retired Felice Herrig, it looks a little bit better. So for Penne, her last time out, she takes on a UFC debuting Emily Ducote and had no reason nor rhyme or answer for the forward pressure in the boxing of Ducote. And for Penne, it was kind of a flat performance.
This is a weird thing to say, but watching Jessica Penne compete in the year 2022, it'd be like if before UFC 200, instead of doing the Brock Lesnar promo, you see me now, they were like, Tank Abbott's coming back. Like, it really does feel like Jessica Penne is a fighter from a different era. And I know that's weird to say because that era doesn't seem like it was that long ago. We're not talking about the welterweight division back when like Josh Koscheck was around, but the women's strawweight division has gone through quite the evolution as of late, especially in the last few years. You sort of have the pre-Weili division and the post-Weili Jessica Andrade division because, like you had said, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Felice Herrig, Jessica Penne herself, Joanna, like most of those fighters at this point have either retired or are not even on the back nine if we're putting it in golf terms. Like, they are putting on the 18th hole. They can see the clubhouse type stuff.
It's steamed hot dog with mustard time.
Exactly. Like, you're ready to just get home. You've been in the sun for 4 hours, ready for a nice nap.
Ripping a doink.
But that's the thing about Jessica Penne. It does feel like she is a fighter from a different era. And with her style, it still feels like she is that same fighter that we saw all those years ago. Her strengths are still her strengths from back then. Very good at head and arm throws. She's not someone who's going to go for a lot of traditional takedowns. We talk about this a lot with women's MMA. Less kind of D1, D2 backgrounds and collegiate wrestling. A lot more judo tosses that you do see in women's MMA. And with Penne, she does like to go to that head and arm choke, and it does help her set up a lot of her own submissions. But that's going to be really interesting to see if she's going to be the one who wants to initiate the grappling with someone like Tabatha Ricci, because I think if this fight is contested in open space, we're going to get a bit of a stinker, for being honest. Neither one of these fighters are the most heavy-handed of strikers. They don't really have, knockdown or even knockout power on the feet, but once it does get into the grappling exchanges, I do think this will be an entertaining fight because for Penne, that's always been her best path to victory. And Ricci reminds me a lot of a Penne, just a few years younger. So it will be interesting to see if she's able to beat the more mature version of what her own style looks like. That it is a great way for her to crack into the rankings herself.
Well, when I look at this fight, you have comparable athletes that they've each fought in the past. And for Ricci, it's actually her last opponent, Polyana Viana. Viana is somebody that holds her hands incredibly low, throws a lot of front kicks and teeps up the middle. And then when you go to take her down, she goes for head and arms, she goes for a lot of guillotines, and that's exactly what Viana did in the fight against Ricci. And for Ricci, she's kind of a 1-2 complete reset type of striker in southpaw. She does have Muay Thai experience, but this is somebody that got into Muay Thai and then overall MMA training about 10 years ago. So she's still very young in her young MMA career. She has that Saiza experience from when she went over to Japan to train, which is something that Yulia Stolyarenko also has a lot of experience in. So we'll touch on that with both of them. But for Ricci, she just fought Polyana Viana, who fights very similarly to Penne. And other than getting stuck in those guillotines, then getting the takedown, then just kind of wearing on her for minutes on end from top position. That's how Ricci was able to win that fight. And in terms of a height and a reach advantage, very similar for Viviane to Ricci. Now for Penne, she will have a 4-inch height advantage, 5-inch reach advantage. She had similar metrics when she took on Danielle Taylor, who's just 5 feet tall with a 60-inch reach. Now, Taylor fights completely differently than Ricci. Taylor's on the outside. She's a volume striker from Orthodox, but in and out, pitter patter. That's how Taylor was able to win that fight all those years ago. As Penne was kind of, well, she probably didn't anticipate she was on her way out.
That was a bad fight to rewatch, though. I will say that. That's why we do the work, so you guys don't have to. I was watching Danielle Taylor versus Jessica Penne at like 1:30 a.m. this morning, okay? It was not the best fight to rewatch.
But what I will say, when you do look at it, I mean, listen, for Penne, she trains out of Alliance MMA. There's a lot of grapplers. Her and Angela Hill kind of like locked at the hip in terms of training partners. For Tabatha Ricci, Paragon BJJ. You see her over at Ruka Sport in the camp of Mackenzie Dern, who's in the main event. But you look at it for Ricci, she herself also a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's also a black belt in judo. So Ricci can go for a lot of different takedowns. She likes, though, the wrestling takedowns, a lot of double legs pressuring, a lot of single legs, because she's not so tall to get the leverage on some of those judo throws. So I look at this as Penne is the type of fighter who off the bottom will threaten with a lot of submission. She does have a very active guard. She will try and transition for a lot of triangles and arm bars. For Ricci, she likes to just keep heavy on top, and that is one of the advantages that she'll have over a lot of the women in this division. But Matt, I know the age difference is what it is. It's almost what? Almost a 40-year-old against almost a 28-year-old. The thing about this one is it's very volatile when it does come to their jiu-jitsu, and I would never downplay somebody like Jessica Penne in a matchup like this.
I just think she's not active enough on the bottom for the right purposes. I do agree with you, and I think that's the biggest difference. And I like what you said about how Ricci just fought someone who physically is very similar to Jessica Penne. The difference is Penne is very squirmy on the ground. She will try to move a lot. She's very difficult to hold down, but I do think that's where Tabatha Ricci is going to have success in this matchup. I think if Penne's the one off her back, she can move a lot and at least create enough separation to where, okay, she might be able to threaten with a sweep and whatnot. I still think she'll ever be able to accomplish some of those bigger actions on the mat. And if we do get a fight that just ends up being a lot of Tabatha Ricci in that top control, maybe threatening with a submission once, twice, maybe 3 times around, ultimately probably not being able to finish it just because Penne is good defensively, especially with her own grappling, that I do favor the grappling style of Tabatha Ricci, but this could be a weird fight that's very close on the judges' scorecards. We could see a round 1 where not a lot happens. Both fighters only land 5 or 6 significant strikes, so that's a hard one to judge.
Doesn't that sound like fun, folks?
But you know what I mean. You get a round where you don't really know who won. One fighter convincingly wins second round, the other fighter convincingly wins the third round, and then we just sort of don't know where the judges' scorecards are going to be in the end. I could see a fight that does end up looking like that, but I still like Tabatha Ricci to go out there and get the fight in the positions that she can excel at, whereas Penne, I think, is just going to sort of take what's given to her in this matchup, and if that's the case, I do like Ricci.
Penne struggled with getting the takedowns her last time out against Cody. She went 0 of 8 on those, but I never really hammer home the stats all that much in some of these shows. I actually will today, but for Penne, she landed 63 of 244 significant strikes her last time out for a 25% average. That's bad, but when you're throwing so much out versus Ricci, who likes to go 1-2, reset, maybe that could kind of help Jessica Penne in this. All right, Matt, so Ricci is riding a wave of success. Yeah. Those last 2 wins that are on her record over Maria Oliveira and Poliana Viana. If you look at it for Penne, I mean, a couple of crazy wins. One chintzy one over Godinez, the one loss to Kovacevic, and then, of course, that loss to Emily Ducote. She got kind of boxed up in that matchup. We have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprise to us, they are to you. I'm going to say over under 70% Baby Shark.
I think they'll be over.
I think they're going to be over. They're way over. 1,401 total votes, 91% Ricci, and 82% by decision. The Tapology voters this year
been one-sided,
are going wild to one side. Matt, you're making a pick on this one. I know we kind of shaded towards it back in October. Is it still, I'll let the cat out of the bag, is it still Tabatha Ricci in this one?
It's still Baby Shark. This is the thing. I had picked Jazz Davicius last weekend. It was because she held a wrestling advantage. And I'm not here to say Jessica Penne is not a good grappler, but she does rely a lot on her judo takedowns, a lot of that head and arm, and she does play off her back a little bit too much. She suffers from the Lua Smolka-isms. So for Penne, I just think she's going to give up a lot of time off her back to Ricci. I think this could be a bit of a stale fight, because I don't know if Ricci's going to be able to just go out there and get the submission. I think it will be back and forth with some of the grappling, but I do still favor Ricci in the matchup.
It's one where the underdog really does have a better shot than maybe the fans voting on Tapology would say, because Penne has some crazy takedowns, and she has some really weird and unconventional, ways to get into her submissions. She's training that at Alliance. A lot of those arm bars, traditional.
Saw that at the Carolina fight.
Traditional things that she's able to go out there and do with the grappling. But for me, I do like Tabatha Ricci. I think she's kind of that new wave with her Muay Thai, with her Jiu-Jitsu. So both of us in this one going with Brazil's Tabatha Ricci to get the win. Some big-time fights on this card, including a title fight up a weight class from this one. Shevchenko taking on Grasso. You're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.